going on, everyone? Welcome into the Bettor Sports Betting Show on a Monday afternoon. Fantasy Alarm, Bettor Sports Betting on the YouTubes. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on this Monday, talking some NFL Divisional playoffs, recapping that, looking ahead to the conference championships coming up on today's show. We also giving out some NBA bets, bringing on James Grande for that in just a sec, a couple minutes here, and then some college basketball bets for myself. But I got Howard Bender here to talk some NFL. We were on Friday's show giving out bets, some good and bad from our Friday show. But we were both on the Chiefs. You took the money line, I took the spread, and they won outright. Obviously last night, you had the Lions too, and then they won. Covered the spread, made it a little interesting in the end, but did have like a double-digit lead at one point there. So that was definitely on the right side of that one. Howard, how was the weekend for you in the NFL?
A much better Sunday than it was a Saturday. Saturday was just, it was kind of funny. We talked about this on Saturday, talking about the historical divisional round and teams favored by, teams underdogs by 9.5 points, cover the spread. And it was like a 50-50 shot. And so I thought that the Houston Texans would put up more of a fight. And I thought the San Francisco offense was going to, explode against this Packers defense. So I had it reversed. And, it was, it was what it was. I put a unit on the spread and I put a unit on each prop that I did. So I had to come back on Sunday. And then I put a second unit. I put 2 units on the Lions to cover the spread. I put a unit on the Chiefs money line, but then I also just threw a unit onto the Chiefs with the 2.5 points, which BetMGM was still giving plus 100 for. So I was perfectly fine with that. And then I just put a half unit on each of those 2 props that I had there. It was Kelsey over 5.5 receptions, which he didn't even, he didn't hit. And then the Sam Laporta anytime touchdown I had for that Detroit game. So not a big deal. I turned out a little bit of a profit for the weekend just because I doubled up. I was much more sure about the Lions covering and the Chiefs winning than I was the other 2 games anyway. So felt good about it.
Yeah, I was with you on the 49ers, thinking that they would win a lot more comfortably. The Packers really could, at points in that game, especially late, I thought the Packers were going to pull it out, but the 49ers did survive that. And I was with you on just taking another unit on the Chiefs. And I was, I originally had the spread, but I also took them on the money line yesterday before the game, just thinking that, all right, this is, I really believe in the Chiefs here to get this done. And they needed a missed field goal from Tyler Bass to possibly push it to overtime. They would have had time, Mahomes would have had time to go down and maybe score, but that missed field goal really obviously cemented it for him. So looking ahead to the conference championships here, Chiefs, Ravens, and Lions, 49ers. Let's just see if we have any early leans on this. Ravens are 3-point favorites in that AFC Championship game. 44.5 is the total. I'll say right now, I'm going to probably take the Chiefs in this one. I can't. This team, I know how shaky it was, the offense in the regular season, but they've found some things. The drops haven't been there as much for this offense. With Kelsey and Rashee Rice just being the trusted guys for Mahomes, Pacheco running as well as he is right now. I got a lot of faith in Kansas City to keep going here. The Ravens, they look very impressive, and it's very hard to fade them at this point. I got to say that. But I think this could be, if you're giving me 3 points with the Chiefs, I feel like it could be a push and maybe a field goal win for the Ravens. But I'd rather take the points here with the Chiefs. What about you?
I'm probably leaning the Ravens right now, just in the sense of doing it and probably buy down a half point. So it's Ravens minus 2.5. Again, it's, I always, when it's a field goal game, I always like to be on the side of Jason Tucker. Not so much that it's, that Butker is bad, but just, Tucker Tucker's been like the premier kicker for years and years and years. So, the lean right now, because let's not forget that this Bills defense was extremely banged up. So Pacheco is going to really earn his money to run against this defense, and you'll have Marlon Humphrey, back, and maybe that that complicates things a little bit more for Rashee Rice. It allows them to utilize Kyle Hamilton a little bit more on instead of as the slot, just looking at Kelsey and spying on him. So it's a great matchup. It's the matchup I think everybody's wanted for some time, but I'll lean the Ravens for the moment right now. We'll have to see. I mean, got to go check. I haven't even, it's Monday for me here, Monday morning, so I haven't even checked the weather reports that are going to come up for Baltimore next week and see what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, if it is a colder game or whatever, both these teams are very well experienced in playing in bad weather games too. So, the total at 44.5 is interesting because I could see this being a little bit higher scoring too. So maybe I'd lean on the over. But obviously both defenses are very good as well. So, but yeah, we'll see. And if this spread moves at all, I think maybe some more money and some public might be on the Ravens, going forward this week. So we might see this spread move a little bit. I don't know though. Honestly, I could see people going to the Ravens, but like I just said, I'm on the Chiefs, so we'll see. The NFC Championship game, Lions 49ers. Niners are 6.5-point favorites. 51 is the total here. The spread seems a little big and a little disrespect for the Lions here, but obviously playing on the road. We both just took the 49ers, and they did not cover last week. 9.5-point favorites in that one. Do you have faith in them covering the touchdown basically spread here?
You know what? I'm looking at Fezzy Mac's comment right there. Lions have lost their last 13 road games against the 49ers. Thank you very much for that, Fezzy Mac. Yeah, so my lean here is what's that? They're due. No, my lean here is the 49ers. I mean, I think it's, the Lions are great. And maybe I'll waver a little bit here because it really is going to depend on how the Lions handle two things: how they run the football, and B, how they stop Christian McCaffrey. They've got their run defense was like number 1 ranked in DVOA this year. So it's a crazy good matchup there. It really is. But this Lions secondary, we really saw some problems with it this past weekend. Yeah. And knowing that, if the weather stays okay, because that's another thing, it's all this rain in the Bay Area that they were dealing with there. But if the rain stays away, then, it's going to be a very, very complicated situation for the Lions defense to contain Debo, who's 50-50 for the game right now, but I still think he plays. Brandon Ayuk. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but my lean right now, I'm just going to lean the two home teams here, laying the points, because that's just kind of, something that we're kind of eyeballing right now. We're seeing that trend.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Niners here. The Lions defense is like kind of the question mark that I think could be the difference here. Is that they looked very vulnerable when the Bucs were going through the air, especially really struggling to cover Mike Evans on those few deep balls. Like if they kept going back to Evans, I don't know. I know there was a couple of like incompletes that Mayfield threw to him, trying to get him. But like who was it? Sutton, the corner for the Lions that was on Evans was, getting torched early in that game. And it's going to be tough for the Lions. Pass defense has been kind of like an iffy unit over the back half of the season. And it's, they struggled against Puka Nacua and Stafford in the wild card win and survived that last week. The Bucs offense is not great. But they still let them score, 23 points in that one. And for a moment, it looked like the Bucs could pull off that win. But it was, I think the 49ers are kind of a different beast. I know they barely survived last week against the Packers. And, the vibes aren't as good as like the Ravens, coming off their comfortable win over the Texans. But I still would lean on the Niners here. I think the spread is this high for a reason, almost at a touchdown for a reason. And I feel like the spread's kind of begging people to take the Lions, because it's a little big. And, I think 6.5 would be huge to get it under 7 if you want to bet that now.
I don't know if I want to bet it now. There's so much that's got to happen right now between now and Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of just sit and chill. I'm gonna feel good about turning a small profit over the weekend and then just start it all over. I got articles that are gonna be coming out for full matchups in this over at fantasyalarm.com. So I will reserve my real strong leans until then.
Yeah. Looking at Super Bowl odds right now, because we talked about this on Friday's show, just before the divisional round games took place, to see if there was any value, any teams you're looking to back. Here are the updated odds you can see on the screen. The 49ers still the betting favorite, plus 145. Ravens at plus 200, Chiefs at plus 350, and the Lions at plus 700. I would, if you want to bet right now on a team to win, I would take either the Ravens or Chiefs. I do think the Super Bowl winner, comes out of the AFC. I as good as the 49ers have been, I think whichever one of those two is going up, in the Super Bowl, they'll probably be underdogs to the 49ers, I would think, like on the spread and on the money line. And I'd probably take that money line. Honestly, I just think that when the playoffs started, I just looked at these two teams and the Bills. It was whichever one of these three comes out. I just like them a lot more. And I think
they're better odds to bet anyway. So I mean, if you're gonna do it, plus 350 is nice. Plus 200 is nice. I mean, listen, the fact that you're getting the plus money on the Niners to win the whole thing also is is kind of decent there too. So, I mean, it's a matter of, see, the funny thing for me is I don't need to make a bet now as to who's going to win the Super Bowl. Cause what we've seen here in the playoffs is, well, come on. Yes. Certain chalk hits, but you're also looking at a number of different things, that weird shit that can happen. How many people had the Bills, upending the Chiefs? So that's actually considered a big upset there. Chiefs beating the Bills in Buffalo.
Yeah. And the fact that you're getting the Chiefs, by the way, at plus 350 odds is kind of crazy to think about. Obviously, this isn't like the same juggernaut Chiefs team we've seen in recent years, but it's still like the reigning Super Bowl champs, and they still have Mahomes, who, all credit to Lamar Jackson, but they still have the best quarterback in the playoffs left. I looked at I found an interesting stat, by the way. If you're looking at the Ravens, Super Bowl or MVP winners, which we're basically penciling them in as the MVP winner this year, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But MVP winners, they don't have a great track record of winning the Super Bowl in the same season. I think I'm trying to think of the last one to do, I think, was Mahomes, but before that, it was, I think, within the last 20 years or something, there's only been Mahomes and maybe it was Brady once. But usually the MVP winner of the regular season isn't winning the Super Bowl in the same year, coincidentally or weirdly enough.
Yeah, I would say coincidentally or weirdly enough. I'm not going to put a huge amount of stock into that right now. I mean, just look at what the Ravens did to the Texans. I mean, they completely dismantled them from start to finish. There was no chance. You knew this game was over in the first quarter. I mean, even though it was you watched it and it was 10-10 in the first half, and you were like, oh, okay, whatever. You saw the Ravens shooting themselves in the foot, and you knew that Harbaugh was going to fix that at halftime. The problem that I saw was that, with the exception of that, that run back for the touchdown, I mean, what the Texans offense was never in this game. They weren't in the game in the first half. I mean, it was 10-10 because of their special teams. What was it, Sims, the punt returner? Right? I mean, they were in it because of that. And that was it. So it was their defense holding the Ravens, and then you got to figure the Ravens, are going to make those adjustments there. And there were no adjustments for Houston. And, it was just, you looked at them and they looked defeated, even just going into halftime. So,
I think in the second half of that game, I think at one point the total yards, differential, it was 300 for the Ravens to 40 for the Texans at one point.
Yeah. I mean, the Texans, they were done. They were finished. They walked into halftime. They might as well not have even shown up on the field for the second half of that game. Terrible. But, whatever. I mean, again, it's a young team, young coach, young quarterback. There's so much. What I love most about what we saw over the weekend was that, the Texans with DeMeco Ryans running things and CJ Stroud under center, Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love for the Packers. Like, they've got something. Both those teams have something there. And while they both lost this time around, those are going to be teams that a lot of people probably should be betting next year when you're talking about things like who's going to win the division and, who could be, who's got the Super Bowl odds in favor of them. Right.
Yeah,
like I'm sure everybody will go to Detroit again to win the North. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, yeah, the Packers and Lions in that NFC North is going to be pretty entertaining to watch over the next few years here, assuming people kind of stay on the same teams. But yeah, the Texans as a dark horse, Super Bowl team next year will be very interesting to see where their odds are landing. I guess we'll know like right after the Super Bowl. That's when like early odds are posted and all that. But yeah, they'll be them and the Packers. It's awesome to see. So, we got up and coming young teams and young quarterbacks that are fun to watch here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Howard. Thanks for coming on to talk some NFL. We'll have you on Friday's show. We got the whole week to kind of dive into our best bets and our props for this weekend's games. So we'll have you on then. But appreciate you jumping on here for a few.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you guys who want to know, I'm going to have write-ups for each game, and in each one there it's going to be all DFS and betting. There's no sense in like doing multiple articles here. There's no reason for it at this time. I'm just going to bang out like DFS and betting content for each one. I'm going to probably have those out hopefully by Wednesday morning and then continuously update as the news comes in. So go check it out over there. Thanks for having me.
Your game by game breakdowns of throughout the playoffs so far have been really helpful in like setting my own, playoff one and done lineups. And if you're playing DFS or betting, player props for all these different players, it's been really helpful. So yeah, keep an eye out for those articles coming out for Howard coming up this week. Thanks for jumping on, man.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right. Before we talk some NBA yet, just wanted to say go check out fantasyalarm.com right now to look at all of our all-pro coverage. I know for tonight we got a ton of NBA, NHL content out already. This whole week obviously is going to be, with NFL basically winding down, Fantasy Alarm is really diving into our NBA, NHL, college basketball for myself, Pete Cole. But MMA, DFS, we had a huge slate this weekend. We had a playbook out for, so check out Fantasy Alarm. And James Grande, one of our Fantasy Alarm's NBA guys, has been in full swing this whole season already. So if you missed any of his stuff, and he's been on the show giving out bets too, but he's back here. What's up, man? How you doing?
Happy Monday. Weird to be here on a Monday, but doing well.
Good to have you,
betting.
Man.
Thank you. Coming off a good week of betting. Like a later week, 6-2 last week. So, right. I got hooked on both my losses too, Servo. So we could have had a perfect, clean, squeaky week. But I'm looking to get back into the saddle here and give out some winners again.
Well, looking for a perfect record here on today's show. Then how about that?
You will 4-0. 4-0. I'm giving out 4 picks. We're going 4-0 today. All right. The sun just went down. They really want to It really wants to encapsulate these picks. Adam Bernard, I was trying to talk to him before the show. He's ignoring me. So I'm locked in here, Servo. I'm locked into the picks today.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for jumping on, dude. Let's get right to it. You got a pick in the Bulls-Suns game tonight, a little player prop for us.
Yeah. I'm going to go with DeMar DeRozan over 3.5 rebounds. You can get that at -165 over on BetMGM. DeMar has hit this in now 7 straight games. We know that he is just always on the floor. This is one of the better game environments on the board. We have 3 games tonight with 10+ point spreads. So, those are I would say the trickiest to attack sometimes in DFS because, and betting and just in general, because blowouts just ruin everything, right? Like, the prop I lost yesterday, Anthony Davis, doesn't play the fourth quarter. So who knows what would have happened in that fourth quarter, right? So this is one of the more competitive games on the board. Not only has he hit this in 7 straight, he's hit this in 8 of 10, he's hit this in 11 of 15. And something I've really taken to, and it's really improved my my individual accolades here as I rack up the wins, is looking at potential rebounds and potential assists for players on a nightly basis. And DeMar DeRozan averages nearly 8 potential rebounds per game for a guy that has a line set at 3.5. So there's no Zach LaVine, a guy who for the Bulls this year has averaged 11 potential rebounds per game. You remove him from the floor, more opportunities for DeRozan to rebound the ball. And again, he's doing it nonstop. So -165 over on BetMGM. And you can parlay with a couple of the other plays after if you want to juice up the line. Because I know -165 isn't the best number, but a pick I'm like incredibly confident with.
Yeah. And just a reminder to everyone, on this show, we're using a lot of BetMGM lines and odds, but obviously look around at different sports books if you want to see if there is some, better odds out there or a better number for different props or bets that we give out. All right. The next one you got here, going to the Cavs on the road in Orlando to take on the Magic. And you got another prop in this one.
Yep, and another rebounding prop, Servo. You'll there's a little trend here. I'm telling you, it's something that I've cornered over the last
I've noticed.
2 weeks.
I've noticed, yeah.
Something I've cornered over the last 2 weeks. So you take a look at what Jared Allen has done, and I'm taking the over 11.5 rebounds here, even money over at BetMGM. In January, it's an 8-game sample thus far. He has averaged 22 rebound chances per game. So obviously chances are what they are. That means he is with an opportunity to grab a rebound, and 22 of them with a number at 8.5. When you date back to December 7th, that's the day after Evan Mobley went on the injury list and has missed since then, he's averaged 20 rebound opportunities per game. So just because it's an 8-game sample this month doesn't mean it hasn't extended almost for 2 full months of where Jared Allen is having 20 rebound opportunities per game for a nearly 2-month span. And that's pretty crazy. And when you look at the data behind it, he's hit the over 9 of his last 11 games. The 2 that he didn't, 11 rebounds. So we've been over or hooked in 11 straight opportunities for Jared Allen. The Magic are on the second leg of a back-to-back. We know how tired jump shooter legs can be in those situations. So I'm looking at Jared Allen, another big performance on the glass, over 11.5 rebounds. Again, even money over on BetMGM. I really like the over here.
Yeah, if he's been over it or just under it in how many straight games now?
11 straight, and he's hit the over in 9 of 11.
Yeah, that's a really good track record.
Yep. Very good track.
Yeah, and especially as you said with Mobley out, I mean, just a lot more rebounding opportunities. All right, next bet here. Let's go to the Hawks. You got a pick in the Hawks and Kings late night game tonight. What's this one?
DeJounte Murray playing the starting point guard role now that Trae Young is on the concussion list.
Yeah.
He did not look good, Trae, last game, so that's good to get this figured out because there was an illness and then it led to a concussion. It's just kind of messy. And it's messy for Murray, too, because he's been so heavily involved in trade talks. But he's been really good on this assist prop dating back to last year without Trae Young. There's been 5 instances where Trae has missed, and in each of the last 5, DeJounte Murray has gone over this number. 3 of them come from this year, 2 of them last year. The last game, which was just on the 19th, DeJounte Murray had 20 potential assists. And obviously, this is just like rebounds, like potential assists stem from them making a pass and somebody shooting. And that would be a potential assist if the ball goes in, right? So he had 20 potential assists last game. The game prior that Trae Young missed this year, 16 and 14 in the 3. So 14, 16, 20 potential assists. And I think the interesting part is the line set at 7.5. And when you look at the Kings defense, they've allowed a 49% shooting clip this year to opposing teams. That's 7th worst in the NBA. The Hawks take a lot of threes. The Kings are the 2nd worst 3-point defense in the NBA. And if DeJounte Murray is anywhere near 20 potential assists a game, that's kicking out to a lot of open shooters in this spot for threes and for just against a bad defense in general. So I really like the trend to continue. Minus 145 over on BetMGM to go over the 7.5 assists for DeJounte Murray.
All right. Yeah. In the point guard role with Trae Young out. And yeah, I agree. It's sometimes you see, players come back or not sit out when they probably should be. And yeah, just with head injuries, it's just, it could lead to so much worse. And
Correct.
yeah, so good to see he's sitting out though. All right, your last pick for tonight. Going a little game bet here, and spicy here. I don't think you've thrown out this team yet for a bet on these shows, but you're rocking with the underdog with Milwaukee Bucks coming to town to Detroit.
Okay, so hear me out. Okay,
I'm listening.
The Bucks are a obvious good team, no doubt about it. They're 29-13. They're 2nd in the East. The Detroit Pistons, worst team in the NBA. No doubt about it. 4 wins this year, 38 losses. Like, no question about it. Both those things factually correct. But we're betting, right? And there's numbers within those records that stood out to me. The Milwaukee Bucks against the spread this year, Servo, 16-26. That is the 3rd worst record in the NBA.
Oof. They
are 8-11 ATS on the road. That is the 9th worst. Over their last 10 games, ATS, Servo. Can you guess what their record is in a 10-game sample?
Against the spread?
Against the spread, yes.
0-10 or 1-9?
1-9. That is correct. Ding, ding, ding. The Detroit Pistons, although they've only won one of these games, are 6-4 against the spread over the last 10 games, including a game that had 280 points scored against Milwaukee just the other day. Milwaukee has had the same issue since the start of the year. It's not that they can't outscore anybody. They have the 2nd best offense in the league. It's not that Giannis can't go out and give you 50. That happens a lot. Not that Dame had 45 against Detroit just the other day, because he can. They just can't put away bad teams. They just can't put away teams in general, and they can't do it, and they don't do it on the road either. So I'm taking the Pistons to cover 12.5. It's obviously scary. It's even money over at BetMGM, because when you're betting on a bad team versus a good team, there's obvious reason to think that good team blows the doors off the bad team. And if Giannis and Dame and Chris Middleton have it going, then it probably happens. But there's a lot of trends suggesting that Detroit can keep this close to single digits all game. And that's all we need. We just need it to be within 12. So I'm going to take the Detroit Pistons quite possibly for the last time this year, Servo, because if they don't hit right now, they're going to leave there's going to be a stain on this, on my record here. So I'm going to take the Pistons 12.5. Obviously proceed with caution there, but the numbers really don't back the Bucks in any capacity ATS when they've been bad against the spread all year. They've been bad against spread on the road, and they've been terrible against the spread over their last 10 games. So give me the Pistons at home to cover this 12.5 point line.
Listen, I love the going, zagging when everyone would say, like, all right, just grab the Bucks here, but you laid it out. I mean, the bad against the spread, record for the Bucks recently, and especially on the road, and the Pistons just being a little feisty. It's interesting to see. So they just played in Detroit on Saturday, right?
Yep.
I feel like this is a rare thing where they're playing another game in Detroit here. They're not. It's not like
home. No, it's not a home and home. It's just a home.
Yeah, it's just a home for both. Yeah.
It's just a home.
Usually it's a home and home, but that's not the case here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's actually been, I feel like we've seen this a couple times this year, like around the NBA.
Okay.
But as I say that, I'm looking at the Pistons, just like randomly looking at the Pistons schedule. and they played. This is like their fourth home and home, not home.
Interesting.
No, but not home. This is their
Oh,
first home,
home.
but this is their like fifth like home and like back to back against somebody, and every other one
Okay.
has been a home and home.
Interesting. Yeah.
That
I'm
is
actually
weird.
now that you said that, I'm looking at the Bucs schedule, and they did this. They played a home against the Knicks in December, so they did this. Weird.
Well, I wonder if that was so that could have been in season tournament and regular
Oh,
regular
it might have
season
been. Yeah,
because December was about the time they played the in season tournament and they beat the Knicks in like the playoff
that might
the
have been that.
the quarterfinal or whatever it was.
Yeah. All right, so going with the Pistons as the underdogs here. James, I got to remind you. Do you remember I gave out a bet against Detroit Mercy, the college team?
Yeah, they were 0 they had not won, right? They were like 0 whatever.
You know what their record is right now? They're do you think they've won a game?
Oh, this is tough. I'm gonna say no. No.
No, they're 0-20.
Oh no! So they've lost that's like multiple games since we've last chatted. Like they have not won a single. Oh, poor guys.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of their wins are by like 20 or more points, or 20. Yeah, a lot of their losses are by 20 or more. So this is the Pistons are doing a little slightly better than Detroit Mercy is still at this point.
The Lions have more playoff wins than the Detroit Mercy have regular season wins.
Yeah, more wins than regular season wins than Detroit Pistons have had.
Close, yeah. If they win the Super Bowl, they'll be tied. That's right. They'll be tied. That's true.
All right, so rolling with the Pistons as the dogs. A couple props. Again, rewind if you just missed any of his props that he gave out. But what you have, you're pumping out DFS playbooks. You got the sleeper and underdog. You and John and Pemba killing all the stuff at NBA. On Fantasy Alarm. Any more things to look out for tonight? Or we'll just wait for you guys on the NBA DFS live show at 5:00 Eastern tonight, right?
Yeah, I got the NBA DFS playbook coming out shortly on fantasyalarm.com, and then 5 p.m. Eastern Standard. We'll be back on the Bettor Sports airwaves with the NBA DFS show.
All right, we'll tune into that. Him and John and Pemba, the NBA duo at Fantasy Alarm. Thanks for jumping on here, James.
Thanks for having me, Servo.
All right. Let's wrap up today's show with some college basketball because it's a small slate tonight, but it's Big Monday. ESPN does these, usually two marquee games that they air, 7 Eastern and 9 Eastern. So we got two tonight. Some mid-major action, but if you want some action on these two games tonight, first one, Wake Forest, North Carolina. I'm taking Wake Forest on the road here. I think that, Wake is a team that's played North Carolina tight over recent years, this in-state rivalry, both North Carolina schools. And over the last 10 meetings, Wake is 8-2 against the spread, including 4-1 against the spread on the road at North Carolina. So they have not backed down from, going on the road to a tough, UNC environment there. And I think they'll play it tighter here. I do think North Carolina wins. They should. But Wake is kind of one of those teams that's, people don't really, give them national recognition, but they can easily, they have the offensive firepower to, I think, match North Carolina. They have their top 30 offense overall in college basketball so far, but they have the second best offensive efficiency in the ACC so far through conference play, and they play at a quicker pace, which can match North Carolina. They also just got Damari Monsanto back from injury, which is huge. He was one of the best players last year, sat out all this year, recovering from an injury he suffered late last year, but he just came back in their last game, and he's going to start getting more involved. Really big wing presence for them for Wake. So just adding to their offense that's already been really good. I think his wing versatility, size, playmaking helps match up with North Carolina a little bit more. Dealing with Harrison Ingram, who's been really good this year for the Tar Heels, but I think Monsanto just helps in that regard. I think North Carolina is a team where they're legit, like Final Four contenders. But lately, they've honestly benefited from playing just an easier ACC schedule. Their last 4 games: BC, Louisville, Syracuse, NC State. They also played Pitt in a recent game. So like 5 of their last 6 have been kind of against like the bottom echelon of the ACC. And I think this is a kind of also a quick turnaround for North Carolina. They just played on the road at Boston College, up in Boston on Saturday, and had to, obviously travel. It's basically a day in between. And as for Wake, they played at home on Saturday, crushed Louisville, which is a good sign that they, sometimes Louisville plays teams tight, even though they're a bad team, but Wake took care of business. And playing at home, they don't have to travel much now for this game. So I think just like the travel factor is definitely in Wake's advantage here. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, they've performed better, against the spread than what Vegas has said over the years, at North Carolina, but just in general against the Tar Heels. So, give me the Wake Forest plus 7.5 on BetMGM right now. And then the other big game tonight is in the Big 12 is Cincinnati at Kansas. And I'm taking Kansas here to win, cover the spread and win comfortably here. Cincinnati's been, kind of a tough team to get a feel for because they're a new member of the Big 12. They had like a road win at BYU, which, wasn't a true Big 12 road game because BYU is also a newcomer. But lately, Cincinnati's lost 3 of their last 4. I think they're starting to feel the struggles of going through the gauntlet that is the Big 12 schedule, especially on the road. And Lawrence Fieldhouse for Kansas is one of the toughest places to play in the country, and especially in the Big 12. And, Cincinnati has been decent on the road. They actually had close losses at Baylor and at Oklahoma in this recent stretch. But I just think this is a kind of a different beast going at Kansas, especially, and this is the most important part. Kansas is coming off a bad loss on the road at West Virginia over the weekend. This is just a really good rebound, get-right opportunity for Kansas because their team, over the years with Bill Self, coming off a loss, they're just one of those teams that I think it just responds well, is really well prepared, and I think they're going to do that here tonight. This year, 2-0 against the spread and straight up off a loss this season so far. Wins of 9 and 12 points in those 2 games, coming off a loss. The Kansas Jayhawks are the number 1 offense in the Big 12 so far. On the other side, Cincinnati is the 12th offense in the Big 12 so far. So I think that is going to be a difference maker. Cincinnati does have size to kind of frustrate Hunter Dickinson, but I think Kansas, once they, playing at home, their role players tend to play a lot better, at home than on the road. Obviously they have, still like KJ McCullough, DeJuan Harris. But when those role players, just start hitting more shots on the road and their offense just takes another leap, I think it's gonna be tough for Cincinnati to match them because they've tried to play tougher defense and keep games lower scoring on the road. As I mentioned, they kept it close against Baylor and Oklahoma, but if they let Kansas go and it starts getting to a faster pace, higher scoring game, I don't see if Cincinnati can keep it close enough. So give me Kansas here. 8.5 is the spread, a little big, but I just think this should be at least a double-digit win for Kansas tonight. All right, so those are some college basketball bets. Rewind and watch earlier. We went over some NFL playoffs, looked at early look at the conference championships, and then James Grande broke down some NBA bets for us on Monday night. So appreciate everyone tuning in here on this Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. Bettor Sports Network here, Fantasy Alarm, YouTube's if you are watching live. We appreciate that as always. Throw in your bets in the chat as always as we go along. But good luck tonight, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.